Hello, my name is Vincent and I'm the sharpener at Korin Japanese Trading. Today I wanted to go over a knife that we got in to be repaired. I just want to go over what I'm going to do specifically to fix this knife. As you can see, this knife has gone through a lot of use and has worn down significantly. So the first step I'm going to do is use a water wheel to reground the knife to get its proper shape back. I'm also going to have to thin the blade because it's worn down so much that the blade has gotten very, very thick. Lastly, I'm going to restore the bevel ratio to its proper 70-30 ratio. I believe this user is right-handed, so I'm going to work more on the right side and a little bit less on the left side. Alright, so I'm going to go right downstairs to the water wheel and start working on this knife. And we'll get back together once this is finished. Alright, so I just got finished working on this knife downstairs, and as we talked about earlier, what I did was I grounded the knife down a little bit to reshape the knife. I also thinned the blade out so that the knife will perform better. And lastly, I restored the original 70-30 ratio on the knife. The final step for me is to finish the knife by hand using the whetstones right here. The first stone I have here, this is a 4,000 grit finishing stone. And this, I'm going to use a series of finishing stones to polish the knife and refine the edge. So again, the first stone is a 4,000 grit. So as I mentioned in some of my other videos, you want to make sure you press very lightly when you're using a finishing stone. You want to make sure you don't ruin all the work that you've done prior to this. So again, I'm making sure I don't press too hard so I don't crush the edge that I worked so hard to put on. So now that we finished on the 4,000 grit stone, I'm going to move on to my second finishing stone, which is the 8,000 grit. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that you're very careful not to press too hard when you're using the 8,000 grit. You don't want to crush the edge that you just worked so hard to put on, so press very, very lightly. So now that I'm done working on the 8,000 grit stone, I'm going to move on to the final step. I'm going to run my knife onto the leather strop just a couple of times to remove any microscopic burrs that might remain on the edge. And finally, I want to make sure I test the knife to ensure that the edge is razor sharp.